Manila is burning. February 3rd, 1945. Smoke rises from 100 fires across the Philippine capital. American forces are pushing in from 3 directions. Artillery pounds Japanese positions along the Pasig River. Machine gun fire echoes through empty streets. General Douglas MacArthur has returned, just like he promised 3 years ago. The Japanese 14th Area Army knows what that means. In command, bunkers across the city, officers study maps covered in red marks. Every arrow points one direction, backward. They are losing Manila street by street, block by block, and they know exactly where 2,147 American and Allied civilians are trapped. Santo Tomas Internment Camp, a university campus in the center of the city, converted into a prison in 1942 when Japan occupied the Philippines. That was 3 years ago. 3 years since Japanese soldiers rounded up every American, British, and Allied civilian they could find. Teachers who had been working in Manila schools, businessmen running trading companies, missionary families, engineers building infrastructure, parents with children who had never seen war. All of them were marched through the gates of Santo Tomas, told they would be treated humanely, told the war would be over soon. Both were lies. Inside the camp, a 7-year-old girl named Margaret sits on the floor of the main building. She has not eaten meat since 1943. Her arms are thin enough to wrap her own fingers around. She does not remember what her father looked like before the camp. He is still alive, somewhere in the men's section, but she has not seen him in months. Margaret is one of 412 children inside Santo Tomas. The adults are worse. Dr. Harold Foley, a missionary doctor from Ohio, weighs 92 pounds. Before the war, he weighed 170. He runs the camp hospital with no medicine, no bandages, and no hope. Every week, someone dies. Dysentery, beriberi, starvation. He writes their names in a ledger he hides under his mattress. 63 names so far this year. It is only February. The Japanese guards cut rations again 2 months ago. Now it is rice mixed with weevils, watered-down vegetable soup, 1 cup per person per day. Some internees have started eating grass from the courtyard. Others trade wedding rings for extra portions. Children cry at night. Not loud, quiet. They have learned that loud crying brings guards. But hunger is not the worst threat anymore. 2 days ago, the guards started acting different. Nervous, packing equipment, burning documents. The internees can hear fighting getting closer, explosions that shake the buildings, artillery fire from the north. Everyone knows what it means. The Americans are coming, and the Japanese are making calculations. Santo Tomas sits directly in the path of MacArthur's advance. 2,000 civilians locked behind 10-foot concrete walls topped with barbed wire. Machine gun nests in guard towers at every corner. Japanese soldiers patrolling the perimeter in rotating shifts. Lieutenant Colonel Toshio Hayashi commands the camp. 240 Japanese soldiers under his orders. Most are garrison troops, support personnel, not frontline infantry. But they are armed and they control every gate, every door, every life inside the compound. Hayashi has received no orders from higher command. Radio contact with Japanese headquarters was cut yesterday. He is isolated, alone, and he understands what 2,000 prisoners represent. Leverage, human shields. If American forces attack, the prisoners die first. That is not a threat. It is doctrine. The internees at Palawan learned that 3 months ago. 150 American prisoners of war locked in air raid shelters, doused with gasoline, burned alive as U.S. forces approached. 11 men escaped by diving into the sea. The rest died screaming. The internees at Santo Tomas have heard the stories. They know what happens when the Japanese decide prisoners are liabilities instead of assets. On the morning of February 3rd, Hayashi orders all internees to assemble in the main courtyard. 2,100 people shuffle into formation, weak, silent. A Japanese officer announces that American forces are approaching the city. He tells everyone to remain calm. He does not say what will happen if the Americans attack. He does not need to. Margaret stands next to her mother in the crowd. She can hear planes overhead. American planes. The sound is different from Japanese aircraft. Deeper. Her mother holds her hand tight. Too tight. Margaret does not ask why. What the internees do not know is that 14 American soldiers are already inside Manila. Alamo Scouts. The same reconnaissance unit that guided the Cabanatuan raid 3 weeks earlier. They infiltrated the city 2 days ago, moving through Japanese-held sections at night, wearing civilian clothes, blending with Filipino resistance fighters who know every alley, every rooftop, every escape route. The scouts have been watching Santo Tomas for 48 hours, counting guards, mapping patrol routes, timing shift changes, photographing the walls and gates from hidden positions. At 1400 hours on February 3rd, the scouts send their report back to 1st Cavalry Division headquarters. The message is brief. Santo Tomas is heavily defended. The walls are solid. The gates are steel reinforced. A conventional assault will take hours to organize and execute. The internees do not have hours. Major General Vern Mudge reads the scout report in his command tent 6 miles outside Manila. He has direct orders from MacArthur. Reach Santo Tomas. Extract the civilians. Do it now, not tomorrow. Not tonight. Now. But Mudge's division is still fighting through Japanese defensive positions along every approach road into the city. Artillery, roadblocks, snipers in upper windows. A methodical advance will take 2 days, maybe 3. The internees will be executed long before then. Mudge makes a decision that violates every tactical manual he has ever read. He will send a flying column straight into Manila. No heavy artillery support. No air preparation. No slow advance with infantry clearing buildings. Just speed. Tanks, jeeps, armored cars, light cavalry moving fast enough that the Japanese cannot organize a response, punch through their lines, bypass strongpoints, drive directly to Santo Tomas before anyone realizes what is happening. The 8th Cavalry Regiment will lead. Approximately 800 men. Their orders are simple. Reach the camp, secure the internees, hold until reinforcements arrive. Lieutenant Colonel Haskett Connor commands the 8th. He receives the mission brief at 1500 hours. He has no detailed street maps of Manila, no precise intelligence on Japanese strength between his position and the target, no contingency plan if the column gets surrounded. Just one objective: Santo Tomas. 6 miles into enemy-held territory. At 1600 hours, the flying column begins moving. Tanks roll out first. M4 Shermans, 5 of them, heavy enough to smash through roadblocks, fast enough to keep momentum. Behind them, trucks carrying infantry, jeeps mounted with machine guns, armored reconnaissance véhicules. The column stretches a quarter mile. They drive through the outskirts of Manila past burning buildings and abandoned defensive positions. Japanese forces are scattered, confused. The speed catches them off guard. By 1800 hours, the column is inside city limits. By 1900 hours, they are 3 miles from Santo Tomas. Inside the camp, Dr. Foley hears engines, a lot of engines, distant but getting louder. He is standing near the hospital building, checking on patients who are too weak to move. The sound is unmistakable. Tracked vehicles, dozens of them. He does not know if they are Japanese reinforcements or American attackers. Either way, the outcome will be the same for the internees. The flying column hits resistance at 1930 hours. A major intersection 3 miles from the camp. Japanese infantry have barricaded the street with overturned buses and tramcars. Machine gun positions on both flanks. The lead Sherman takes fire. Rounds spark off its armor. The tank does not stop. It accelerates, crashes into the barricade at full speed. Metal screams, wood splinters. The Sherman punches through and keeps rolling. The rest of the column follows. They do not stop to clear the Japanese position. No time. Enemy soldiers are still firing as the last vehicles disappear down the street. At 2000 hours, the column is 1 mile out. Santo Tomas rises above the surrounding buildings. Tall university structures visible even in the fading light, guard towers on the walls, searchlights sweeping the perimeter. Connor orders the column to maximum speed, 30 miles per hour through city streets. Faster than safe, faster than smart, but speed is the entire plan. Hit hard, hit fast. Do not give the enemy time to react. Japanese guards in the towers see them coming. Headlights, engine noise, a column of American armor moving straight toward the gate. Officers shout orders, machine guns traverse, but the timing is wrong. The Americans are too close, too fast. At 2015 hours, the lead Sherman reaches the main gate of Santo Tomas. The gate is steel reinforced wood, locked, barred from inside, built to stop riots, built to contain prisoners. Not built to stop a 30-ton tank moving at 30 miles per hour. The Sherman does not slow down. It hits the gate dead center. The impact sounds like an explosion. Metal shrieks. Wood disintegrates. The gate collapses inward in a shower of splinters and twisted steel. The tank drives through the wreckage into the compound. Inside the main building, Margaret is lying on the floor with her mother and 200 other women and children. The doors are barred from outside. Japanese guards locked everyone in after the assembly hours ago. No one is allowed to move. Then the building shakes. A massive crash from somewhere outside. Gunfire. Shouting. Her mother pulls her close, covers her ears, but Margaret can still hear everything. Engines revving. Men screaming in Japanese. More gunfire. Closer now. She thinks the guards are executing people in the courtyard. The flying column pours through the destroyed gate. Tanks, jeeps, infantry jumping from trucks before they fully stop. They spread across the compound in a wave. Japanese guards are running, some toward defensive positions near the rear wall, others toward the internee buildings. A firefight erupts in the main courtyard. Rifle fire, machine gun bursts, grenades detonating against concrete. Inside the main building, bullets punch through walls. Glass shatters. Plaster dust falls from the ceiling. The internees are pressed flat on the floor, hands over heads, children crying, adults trying to shield them with their own bodies. Dr. Foley is trapped in the hospital building with 60 patients too sick to move. He can hear American voices outside, shouting in English, ordering someone to surrender. The accent is unmistakable. Texas. Maybe Oklahoma. Americans. Actually here. Actually real. Connor pushes forward with his command group. He does not know the compound layout. The Alamo Scouts provided maps, but the situation is chaos. Smoke drifting across the courtyard. Muzzle flashes in the darkness. Japanese guards firing from upper windows. He needs to find the internees. Get them clear of the fighting before someone panics and a massacre starts. A door bursts open on the ground floor of the main building, not broken by soldiers, broken from inside, internees kicking it down. A man stumbles out, skeleton thin, moving like he has not run in years. He sees American soldiers, stops, stares. Then he starts laughing, crying, both at the same time. More internees flood out behind him. Hundreds, pouring from buildings across the compound even as gunfire continues. They are skeletal, moving slowly. Some collapse after a few steps. American soldiers grab them, pull them to cover behind vehicles, shield them with their own bodies. Margaret's mother kicks at the barred door until it splinters. She pulls Margaret through. They stumble into the courtyard. Margaret sees tanks, American tanks, soldiers in uniforms she has only seen in photographs. One soldier is kneeling behind a jeep, firing a rifle toward the rear wall. Another is carrying an old woman toward the gate. Margaret does not understand what is happening. She has been a prisoner for 3 years, since she was 4 years old. This is the only world she knows. Her mother is crying, saying something Margaret cannot hear over the gunfire. Japanese guards are falling back toward the rear of the compound. Some are still shooting. Others have dropped weapons and are trying to climb the back wall. American machine gunners cut them down. Bodies fall into the dirt. At 20:45 hours, 30 minutes after the lead tank broke through the gate, the compound is mostly secure. Japanese resistance has collapsed. Approximately 40 guards surrendered. Another 60 fled over the back wall. 20 were killed. The rest are trapped in isolated buildings, cut off, waiting for a chance to escape. Connor orders his men to cease fire except in direct defense, secure the buildings, get every internee into the main courtyard where they can be protected and counted. American soldiers move through the compound room by room. They find internees locked in closets, hiding under beds, barricaded in bathrooms, all terrified, all skeletal. Many cannot stand without help. Soldiers carry them out. Dr. Foley emerges from the hospital with his patients. American medics are setting up aid stations in the courtyard. He walks over, introduces himself. The medic looks at him, at his emaciated frame, at the patients behind him who look like concentration camp survivors. The medic says nothing, just starts unpacking medical supplies. By 2300 hours, the internees are concentrated in the main courtyard. Over 2,000 people, sitting, standing, lying on the ground. American soldiers are handing out rations, water, medical supplies from aid bags. It is not enough, not even close, but it is more food than most internees have seen in months. Margaret eats a chocolate bar, her first candy in 3 years. She throws up 10 minutes later. Her stomach cannot process it. A medic gives her water instead, tells her to sip slowly. Connor establishes a defensive perimeter around the camp, tanks positioned at key points along the walls, infantry in fighting positions overlooking the gates. Radio contact with division headquarters confirms what he already suspects. They are surrounded. Japanese forces are regrouping outside the compound. Radio intercepts indicate enemy units moving to counterattack. The flying column holds Santo Tomas, but they are isolated, 6 miles deep into Manila. No reinforcements, limited ammunition, and dawn is still hours away. At 2200 hours, the Japanese counterattack begins. Mortar rounds fall inside the compound, not sustained bombardment, probing fire, testing American positions. Machine gun tracers streak across the walls from buildings outside the perimeter. The Japanese are not trying to retake the camp. They are trying to keep the Americans pinned, buying time to organize a larger assault. Connor has his men dig in. Foxholes, sandbag positions, overlapping fields of fire. The internees remain in the center of the compound, protected by walls and American soldiers. But those walls are thin. Mortar fragments punch through concrete. A round lands 30 yards from where Margaret is sitting with her mother. Dirt and shrapnel spray across the courtyard. No one is hit. This time, if the Japanese bring up artillery, everyone dies. Major General Mudge knows Connor cannot hold indefinitely. He orders the rest of 1st Cavalry Division forward. Push into Manila, relieve Santo Tomas. But the division is fighting through heavy resistance. Japanese forces are defending every intersection, every building, every rooftop. The relief column is moving, but slowly. At 2300 hours, Japanese infantry probe the eastern wall. A squad attempts to climb over using bamboo ladders. American machine gunners see them in the darkness. Open fire. The Japanese fall. The probe fails. 30 minutes later, another attempt on the north side. Same result, bodies piled at the base of the wall. The Japanese are testing defenses, looking for weak spots, preparing for a coordinated assault. Inside Santo Tomas, the internees try to sleep. Most cannot. The sound of gunfire, mortar impacts, engines in the distance. After 3 years of silence and routine, the noise is overwhelming. Dr. Foley moves between injured internees, treating wounds, checking vital signs, rationing morphine. He has 11 patients in critical condition. Starvation complications. Infections. One elderly woman with pneumonia who will not survive the night, even with American medical help. She dies at 0200 hours, quietly, surrounded by strangers in a courtyard that smells like cordite and diesel fuel. She is the first inner-knee death after liberation, not from Japanese violence. From 3 years of slow starvation. Dawn comes at 0600 hours on February 4th. Daylight reveals the full scope of the situation. Santo Tomas is surrounded by Japanese-held buildings, snipers visible in upper windows. The perimeter walls are pockmarked from mortar fire. 2 buildings inside the compound are burning from overnight fighting. Smoke drifts across the courtyard. But daylight brings American air support. P-38 fighters appear overhead at 0630 hours. They strafe Japanese positions around the camp. Rockets slam into buildings where snipers were firing from. Machine gun runs suppress enemy mortar teams. The attacks are precise, close. The pilots know American forces and civilians are inside the compound. One mistake, and they kill the people they are trying to save. Artillery from advancing American units begins targeting Japanese concentrations around Santo Tomas. The barrage is methodical, walking fire, creeping closer to enemy positions without hitting the camp itself. The pressure on the compound eases. Japanese forces pull back, not a retreat. A tactical adjustment, waiting for reinforcements that are not coming. At 0900 hours, lead elements of the 1st Cavalry Division Relief Force reach Santo Tomas. Fresh troops, ammunition resupply, medical personnel with real equipment, ambulances. The perimeter is reinforced. The immediate threat of being overrun disappears. Evacuation begins at 1000 hours. Ambulances move into the compound. The most critically ill internees go first. Stretcher cases loaded into vehicles. Dr. Foley supervises triage, prioritizing based on survival probability. 300 internees require immediate hospital care. Another 500 need medical evaluation. The rest are ambulatory, but weak. Margaret and her mother board a truck at 1100 hours. They sit in the back with 20 other women and children. The truck drives out through the shattered main gate, past burned-out Japanese positions, past American soldiers digging foxholes, past buildings that are still smoking from airstrikes. The route back to American lines is under constant sniper fire. Rounds ping off the truck's metal sides. No one is hit. The convoy keeps moving, escorted by tanks, protected by overhead fighters. Japanese forces try to interdict, but fail. Every convoy gets through. By February 5th, all 2,147 internees have been evacuated from Santo Tomas. 11 died during the rescue operation, most from pre-existing medical conditions, starvation complications, pneumonia, heart failure, bodies worn down by 3 years of captivity, not killed by combat, killed by what the Japanese had already done to them. 2,136 survive. They are transported to field hospitals, emergency medical treatment, refeeding protocols to avoid shock. Within days, most are stable enough for evacuation. Cargo planes fly them to rear area hospitals, then to ships bound for the United States. Margaret arrives in San Francisco 3 weeks later. She weighs 41 pounds. Doctors estimate she is 18 months behind normal development. She does not recognize her grandparents when they meet her at the dock. She has no memory of them, no memory of America, no memory of anything before Santo Tomas. It takes her 2 years to regain normal weight. 5 years before the nightmares stop, she never talks about the camp. Not to her children, not to anyone. Some memories stay locked. The 8th Cavalry Regiment remains at Santo Tomas for 3 more days, holding the position as 1st Cavalry Division clears surrounding blocks. Japanese resistance in Manila continues for another month. The battle destroys most of the city. Over 100,000 Filipino civilians die in the fighting. Buildings are leveled, infrastructure obliterated. But the internees from Santo Tomas are not among the dead. Lieutenant Colonel Connor receives the Distinguished Service Cross. Major General Mudge is personally commended by MacArthur. The flying column tactic becomes standard doctrine for rapid exploitation operations. Military academies study the raid for decades. Speed over preparation, audacity over caution. The numbers tell part of the story. 800 American soldiers, 6 miles into enemy territory, 30 minutes to breach the camp, 2,136 civilians rescued, 11 lost. But numbers do not capture what it meant. Dr. Foley returns to Ohio in 1946. He opens a small practice, never speaks publicly about Santo Tomas, keeps the ledger with 63 names in a desk drawer for the rest of his life. When he dies in 1978, his family finds it. They do not understand what it is. They throw it away. The Japanese command calculated that 2,000 civilians would shield them from American advance, that MacArthur would hesitate, negotiate, slow down to avoid civilian casualties. They were wrong. The shields became the mission. And the mission was executed in one night by 800 men who drove straight through enemy lines without stopping. No negotiation, no hesitation. Just speed and violence and the refusal to leave anyone behind. Japan thought civilians would protect them. America proved them wrong overnight.